Hey you guys. So in my last video, I started off my summer of 1980s made-for-TV movies with my list of the 15 best and most memorable of the decade. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be going year by year from 1980 to 1989 since there are so many great TV movies to talk about. Because the 80s were the golden age of the made-for-TV movie. Many were major events that ended up changing the culture and prompting new legislation about everything from drunk driving to domestic abuse to missing children. But what I didn't make clear in that video is that the TV movie has actually been around since the 60s. The first made for TV movie in the United States was See How They Run, which premiered on NBC on October 7th, 1964, just weeks before the first Gen Xer was born, according to Pew Research. This drama, starring John Forsythe, Jane Wyatt, and Franco Tone, followed three orphans pursued by a corrupt international cartel. It was produced specifically for television as part of NBC's effort to create original programming to compete with theatrical films. You see, back in the 20th century, before streaming destroyed Hollywood and turned entertainment into content, there was a distinct difference between TV and movies. Movies were for the theater, events to be seen on the big screen, with big-name movie stars, directors, screenwriters, and huge budgets. TV, on the other hand, was for smaller stories on the small screen with much lower budgets. There was a whole world of TV actors and writers who would create various sitcoms, police and hospital dramas, soap operas, and variety shows. Oftentimes, audiences wouldn't even get to see the shows they made because the pilots wouldn't get picked up and put on the air. Still, TV characters on our favorite shows would visit our homes on a weekly basis for 9 months every year, and then we'd see them again in summer reruns. We laughed with them, cried with them, and cared about the stories they told. Like I said, there was a big difference between TV and movies. By the 1970s, though, network executives started warming to the idea of making low-budget movies for television, especially at ABC, and they began adding them into their primetime lineups. Driven by audience demand, cost efficiency, and the ability to address topical issues quickly, NBC and CBS joined in, and the three big networks collectively produced and aired about a couple of dozen movies per year on television by the mid to late 70s. And then the networks got into the business of miniseries, movies that ran over multiple nights, like Rich Man, Poor Man, Roots, Centennial, Holocaust, Sybil, Jesus of Nazareth. I had to mention those. I see you in the comments. So anyways, I say all of that to lay the groundwork for today's video. The best and most watched made-for-TV movies of the 1970s. I'm going to call it a prequel to my 80s TV movie summer series. I was born in 1977, so I had to really dive into the research to find the most watched TV movies of the 70s instead of relying on my own personal experience and knowledge. The Nielsen ratings from back then were not easy to find, but I did my best. The other criteria I used for the movies on this list was whether or not I had heard of them during my 1980s childhood. Were they still such a big deal that they were being talked about a decade later? Were they rerun in syndication or on cable? Could I rent a copy on VHS at the video store? I swear I was a TV and movie geek even back then. As I went through the titles of TV movies from the 1970s that aired for one night only, there were 10 that definitely stood out. 10 movies that even an 80s kid like me was very familiar with. In fact, the number one movie on this list was the very first movie I ever bought on VHS, and it began my lifelong hobby of movie collecting. I found it at the Suncoast Motion Picture Company at the mall and dropped $39.95 plus tax for it. Back in the late 80s, that was big money. Okay, so let's get to it. My name is Natalie, this is my so-called Gen X life, and here is my list of the top 10 best and most watched TV movies of the 1970s. Before we get to my top 10 list, let's start off with some honorable mentions based on subscriber comments.
Tonight,
I Want to Keep My Baby is a drama directed by Jerry Thorpe that aired on CBS on November 19th, 1976. It starred Mariel Hemingway as Sue Ann Cunningham, a 15-year-old girl who becomes pregnant by her boyfriend and chooses to keep and raise her baby independently, defying pressures to opt for an abortion or raise the child with her domineering mother. The film, written by Joanna Lee, tackled themes of teenage pregnancy, personal agency, and societal expectations. I couldn't find any ratings for this one, and I personally don't remember it, but I made it an honorable mention because of a subscriber recommendation. It's not available on YouTube, but I did find it online, and I watched it last night. It's definitely worth the watch, so I put a link to it in the description below. Sweet Hostage is a romantic drama directed by Lee Phillips and based on Nathaniel Benchley's novel Welcome to Xanadu. It aired on ABC on October 10th, 1975. The film stars Linda Blair as Doris May Withers, a 17-year-old illiterate farm girl, and Martin Sheen as Leonard Hatch, a 31-year-old escaped mental patient who kidnaps her and takes her to his remote cabin in New Mexico. Initially fearful, Doris forms a bond with Leonard, who teaches her to read and recites poetry, which leads to a romantic relationship. As one of my subscribers pointed out, this was a popular fairy tale like love story in the 70s, but it may confuse the younger generations. Apparently, blending Stockholm Syndrome and romance gives the kids the ick. Satan's School for Girls is a horror mystery film directed by David Lowell Rich and produced by Aaron Spelling. It premiered on ABC on September 19th, 1973. It stars Pamela Franklin as Elizabeth Sayers, a young woman investigating her sister's apparent suicide at Salem Academy for Women, only to uncover a satanic cult led by Dr. Joseph Clampett. The cast includes Kate Jackson and Cheryl Ladd, who is credited as Cheryl Stolplemore before their days on Charlie's Angels. The plot blends occult horror with a creepy boarding school setting, capitalizing on the 70s fascination with Satanism post Rosemary's Baby. Named one of the most memorable 1970s TV movies and recommended to me by a subscriber, Satan's School for Girls has achieved cult status and warranted a 2000 remake starring Shannon Doherty and Kate Jackson in a different role. The Execution of Private Slovic is a 1974 made-for-TV movie based on William Bradford Huey's 1954 nonfiction book, dramatizing the true story of Private Eddie Slovic, the only American soldier executed for desertion during World War II and the first since the Civil War. This movie aired on NBC on March 13, 1974, and starred Martin Sheen in the titular role along with Mary Claire Costello, Ned Beatty, and Gary Busey. There's even an uncredited appearance by Charlie Sheen, marking his screen debut at the age of 8. The movie opens with preparations for Slovic's execution in January 1945, then flashes back to trace his life. Slovic was a 24-year-old from Detroit with a troubled youth and a criminal record who finds stability through a factory job and marriage to his wife Antoinette. Initially exempt from the draft due to his record, Slovic was called up in 1944 as the army needed more soldiers. Struggling in basic training and openly admitting his fear of combat, he requests non-combat roles but is denied. Instead, he's sent to the front lines in France with the 28th Division, so Slovic deserts after coming under artillery fire and separating from his unit. He joined a Canadian outfit briefly before turning himself in, explicitly stating his intent to desert to avoid combat. Despite opportunities to return to duty, Slovic persists, leading to his court-martial. The army, seeking to set an example amid rising desertions, sentences him to death. The film depicts his final hours, culminating in his execution by firing squad. The Execution of Private Slovic was critically acclaimed and left a lasting impact on viewers. Sheen's performance was widely praised, earning an Emmy nomination for Best Lead Actor in a Drama. Critics lauded the film's sensitive handling of a complex moral issue. In 2016, Matt Zoller Seitz called it the third greatest American TV movie ever, praising its quietly outraged yet resolutely unsentimental approach and Sheen's finest performance. If you'd like to check it out, this movie is available on YouTube, and there's a link in this video's description.
We will return after these messages.
Tonight, a CBS special movie presentation.
Something for Joey is a made-for-TV movie that premiered on CBS on April 5th, 1977. It is based on the true story of the relationship between Penn State football player John Cappelletti Jr. and his younger brother Joey, as detailed in Richard E. Peck's 1975 biography. This tearjerker is set in the early 70s and focuses on John, played by Mark Singer, who is a star running back at Penn State, and his preteen brother Joey, who's been battling leukemia since age 3 and was among the first children to undergo chemotherapy. The story was not just a disease of the week movie, though. It highlighted the brothers' deep sibling bond, with Joey frequently visiting John in the Penn State locker room, inspiring his brother's pursuit of the Heisman Trophy. As John rises to become the top college football player in 1973, Joey's courage in facing his illness fuels John's determination. The narrative follows John's college career and Joey's health struggles, culminating in John's emotional Heisman acceptance speech, where he dedicates the trophy to Joey for his bravery. The film concludes with the revelation that Joey succumbed to leukemia on April 8, 1976, with John by his side. It's a cherished, if underseen, TV movie for its heartfelt portrayal of a real-life story, and it was a big success at the time. It was the most watched primetime television program of the week when it aired in April of 77, and to this day it holds a 96% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I should also mention that legendary actress Geraldine Page stars as Joey and John's mother, and this movie was also the acting debut of Steve Guttenberg. Oh, and yes, it's on YouTube, and the link is in the description.
The youngest member of my family, Joseph, is very ill. He has leukemia. And if I could dedicate this trophy to him tonight and give him a couple days of happiness, this is worth everything. And it's a battle that's unending with him, and he puts up with much more than I'll ever put up. And I think that this trophy is more of his than it is mine, because he's been a great inspiration to me.
The ABC Sunday Night Movie.
The Jericho Mile is a made-for-TV movie set at Folsom State Prison and directed by Michael Mann in his feature-length directorial debut. It premiered on ABC on March 18, 1979, with a story that centers on Larry Rain Murphy, a prisoner serving a life sentence for the first-degree murder of his father, a crime he believes was justified to protect his stepsister from abuse. Played by Peter Strauss, Murphy is a loner nicknamed Lickety Split by fellow inmates, and he spends his time running laps in the prison yard, unaware of his exceptional speed. His talent is discovered when a prison psychologist, played by Jeffrey Lewis, has a sports writer time his mile, revealing that he runs it in under 4 minutes. The warden and a state track coach see Olympic potential and arrange for Murphy to race against competitive runners, including top miler Frank Davies. As Murphy trains, he navigates prison tensions, including racial and gang conflicts, and forms a bond with a black inmate named Styles, played by Richard Lawson, who is later exploited by prison factions. Murphy qualifies for the Olympic trials by beating Davies, but the U.S. Olympic Board rejects his participation due to his criminal status. Provoked during a hearing, Murphy defiantly declares he'd commit the murder again, ending his Olympic hopes. The film closes with Murphy returning to his routine and learning that Davies qualified for the Olympics. Joining Strauss in this cast was future Magnum PI star Roger E. Mosley, Brian Dennehy, Billy Greenbush, and Ed Lauter, among many others. They even used Folsom inmates as extras. The Jericho Mile was a critical and audience success, ranking as the 7th highest rated show of its week per IMDb and winning 5 awards, including 3 Emmys. Viewers praised its gritty realism because it was shot on location at Folsom Prison with real inmates, and of course, Mann's stylish direction. Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd reviews commend the movie's blend of sports uplift and cynical prison drama, with scope, energy, and potential for a theatrical release. It really is a standout TV movie, and the link is in the description. Friendly Fire is a made-for-TV movie that first aired on ABC on April 22, 1979. Based on C.D.B. Bryan's 1976 book and adapted from his New Yorker articles, Friendly Fire chronicles the true story of Iowa farm couple Peg and Jean Mullen, played by Carol Burnett and Ned Beatty, and their quest to uncover the truth about their son Michael's death in Vietnam. Skeptical of the Army's vague explanation, Peg, a determined and stoic mother, leads a years-long battle against government obfuscation, facing tampered mail, bugged phones, and military cover-ups. Jean, a World War II veteran, grapples with emotional turmoil, while their younger son John, played by a very young Timothy Hutton, deals with silent grief. With help from journalist C.D.B. Bryan, played by Sam Waterston, Peg uncovers evidence of military incompetence and manipulated casualty figures, fueling her anti-war activism. The film exposes the personal toll of their loss and the broader failures of the Vietnam War, ending with the Mullins' disillusionment but unwavering resolve to honor Michael's memory. Friendly Fire was a critical and ratings triumph, watched by an estimated 64 million viewers, making it one of the highest rated TV movies of its time. It won 4 Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Drama Special, Outstanding Directing, and Outstanding Film Sound Editing, plus a nomination for Carol Burnett's Best Actress role, but she lost to Bette Davis. Viewers and critics praised Burnett's dramatic shift from her comedic persona, with a Rotten Tomatoes review calling her performance stupendous and gut-wrenching, and the film a landmark for exposing Friendly Fire issues. Peg Mullen's real-life perseverance was widely admired, cementing the film's status as a powerful, era-defining drama. This one is not available on YouTube, but you can watch it for free on Tubi, a fantastic source for movies and TV shows from the 70s and 80s, and I put that Tubi link in this video's description.
ABC presents Movie of the Weekend.
Well, it's about time, Charlie. You want me to hit that car head on.
Dennis Weaver.
Okay, Jack, I've had it. Why? Why is he doing this?
Duel.
Duel is a made-for-TV movie that premiered on ABC on November 13th, 1971, and it marked the directorial debut of Steven Spielberg. Based on a short story by Richard Matheson, who also wrote the screenplay, the film follows David Mann, played by Dennis Weaver, a mild-mannered salesman driving a red Plymouth Valiant through the California desert on a business trip. While passing a slow-moving, rusty Peterbilt tanker truck on a 2-lane highway, Mann inadvertently angers its unseen driver. The truck begins a relentless pursuit, tailgating, cutting him off, and attempting to force him into deadly collisions. Mann initially dismisses the aggression as a misunderstanding, but soon realizes the trucker's intent is lethal. With no clear motive and minimal dialogue, the film builds suspense through Mann's growing panic and the truck's menacing presence, depicted almost as a monstrous entity. Mann's attempts to escape at a gas station, a diner, and a railroad crossing fail as the truck stalks him. Duel was a critical and rating success, drawing an estimated 20 to 25 million viewers. Its intense pacing and Spielberg's innovative direction, using tight shots and dynamic camera angles, earned widespread praise. The film won the 1972 Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Film Sound Editing and a nomination for Weaver's performance as well. Duel has been described as a masterpiece of suspense and a landmark TV movie that feels cinematic, thanks to Spielberg's vision and Weaver's relatable portrayal of fear. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 90% approval rating, with critics noting its influence on later thrillers like Jaws. Other reviews highlight its timeless tension, with one calling it the scariest truck chase ever, and another praising the truck as a character in itself. The film's legacy endures to this day, with fans citing it as a defining early work of Spielberg's career. And of course, if you'd like to watch it, there is a link in the description below.
The ABC Saturday Night Movie will continue in a moment.
Tonight, the CBS Thursday Night Movies.
The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman aired on CBS for the first time on January 31st, 1974, and it was based on Ernest J. Gaines' 1971 novel. This is a fictional narrative that was presented as the oral history of a 110-year-old African-American woman, and it begins in 1962 with a journalist interviewing Jane Pittman, played by the incredible Cicely Tyson. As the story goes, Pittman was born into slavery in Louisiana around 1850, and through flashbacks, Jane recounts her life as a young girl freed after the Civil War, where she faces the harsh realities of Reconstruction, including violence from white vigilantes. She adopted an orphan boy named Ned, and she works as a field laborer and later marries a horsebreaker named Joe Pittman. After Joe's death, Jane raises Ned's son, Jimmy, who becomes a civil rights activist in the 1960s. The story spans slavery, sharecropping, Jim Crow, and the civil rights movement, culminating in Jane's defiant act at age 110, drinking from a whites-only water fountain, symbolizing her lifelong resistance. The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman was a critical and ratings triumph, drawing an estimated 30 to 40 million viewers, an extremely strong showing for CBS in the 1970s TV movie era. It won 9 Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Special, Best Actress for Cicely Tyson, and Best Director for John Cordy. It was also nominated for a Peabody. Many reviewers praised Tyson's transformative performance, with one critic calling it one of the greatest TV movies of all time. Other critics have noted that the fictional framing softened the movie's historical weight, but its enduring legacy lies in Tyson's iconic performance. It really was a benchmark for socially conscious TV dramas, even if it wasn't based on a true story. And of course, if you'd like to watch it, there is a link in the description.
ABC presents a world television premiere on the ABC Monday Night Movie.
Someone has killed Father.
Is the prisoner at the bar guilty or not guilty?
The Legend of Lizzie Bordon is a made-for-TV movie that premiered on ABC on February 10th, 1975. It dramatizes the infamous 1892 axe murders of Andrew and Abby Borden in Fall River, Massachusetts, and the subsequent trial of their daughter, Lizzie. The film stars Elizabeth Montgomery, yes, Samantha from Bewitched, as Lizzie, a reserved spinster who lives with her wealthy but domineering father Andrew and stepmother Abby. Tensions simmer in the Borden household due to financial disputes and family resentment. And then, on August 4th, 1892, Andrew and Abby are found brutally hacked to death. Lizzie becomes the prime suspect since she was home during the murders and gives inconsistent statements. The narrative follows the investigation, led by prosecutor Hosea Knowlton, played by Ed Flanders, and the sensational 1893 trial where Lizzie's defense attorney exploits lack of physical evidence and societal biases about women committing violent crimes. Through flashbacks and courtroom scenes, the film explores Lizzie's possible motives, repressed anger, inheritance disputes, and family dysfunction, while leaving her guilt ambiguous. A speculative epilogue suggests Lizzie's inner thoughts, hinting at her possible culpability without confirming it, maintaining the case's historical mystery. The supporting cast includes Katherine Helmond, who we would know in the 80s as Mona from Who's the Boss. There was also Helen Craig, Fritz Weaver, and Don Porter. The Legend of Lizzie Bordon was a ratings hit, drawing an estimated 20 to 30 million viewers. It received strong critical praise, earning 3 Emmy nominations, including Outstanding Lead Actress for Montgomery. Viewers called Montgomery's performance mesmerizing, and the film was a gripping true crime drama that balanced historical accuracy with suspenseful ambiguity, while critics lauded the atmospheric tension and Montgomery's shift from her bewitched persona. The film's impact endures to this day, with fans citing it as a benchmark for true crime TV movies, amplified by its focus on a still debated historical mystery. And of course, the link to it here on YouTube is in the description. The Boy in the Plastic Bubble is a made-for-TV movie that premiered on ABC on November 12, 1976, and it was inspired by the real-life cases of David Vedder and Ted DeVita, who lived with severe combined immunodeficiency, or SCID, which required isolation to avoid infections. The film follows Todd Lubitsch, played by John Travolta, when he was Vinnie Balmerino in Welcome Back, Kotter and just before Saturday Night Fever. He was born without an immune system and lives inside a sterile plastic enclosure at his family's California home. The story spans Todd's life from childhood to his teenage years, exploring his longing for a normal life. His parents, Mickey and Gina, played by Brady Bunch star Robert Reed and Eight Is Enough star Diana Hyland, struggle to balance protection with Todd's emotional needs. Todd forms a bond with his neighbor, Gina, played by Glynis O'Connor, who grows from a childhood friend into a romantic interest. As a teen, Todd attends school via a video link and grapples with isolation, particularly after falling in love with Gina. With medical advances, he's given a mobile NASA-designed suit to venture outside, allowing brief freedom like attending the prom. Torn between safety and living fully, Todd decides to leave his bubble, risking death to experience life, including a ride with Gina. The Boy in the Plastic Bubble was a ratings success, drawing an estimated 20 to 25 million viewers. It received critical acclaim, winning a posthumous Emmy for Diana Hyland, Outstanding Supporting Actress, and earning nominations for Outstanding Special and Outstanding Writing. Hyland died less than a year after this movie aired in 1977, just 4 episodes into the first season of 8 Is Enough, where she played the mom, Joan Bradford. Her passing was also around the same time that it was revealed that she and Travolta began a romance on the set of the movie. If you're interested, I talk about the Hyland-Travolta romance and her death in my video 15 Dark and Heartbreaking Behind the Scenes Stories from our favorite TV shows. I'll put the link to that video in the description. There's also a link to the movie as well.
We'll return after these messages. The ABC Tuesday Night Movie.
Introduce myself. My name is Kolchak of the Daily Chronicle.
Kolchak reports the bizarre, the supernatural, the unexplainable.
You again in another crazy story. This nut thinks he is a vampire.
You know what I call that? Irresponsible yellow journalism.
He has killed 4, maybe 5 women.
I saw that so-called super killer wipe up the streets with your so-called police force.
They don't want any help from amateur bloodhounds like you.
I've been a reporter for 22 years.
I've been a police officer for 30.
Well, then why don't you retire?
Each man in the field is to be issued one of these and one of these.
Are you suggesting that we pound one of these into Skorzeny's chest?
No, into his heart.
Darren McGavin, the Nightstalker.
The Nightstalker is a made-for-TV horror movie that premiered on ABC on January 11, 1972. It's based on Jeff Rice's unpublished novel, The Kolchak Papers, with a script adapted by Richard Matheson. Set in Las Vegas, it follows Carl Kolchak, played by Darren McGavin, a down-on-his-luck reporter with a knack for trouble, who's investigating a series of murders of young women, all found drained of blood with bite marks on their necks. Kolchak suspects the killer, Janos Skorzeny, played by Barry Atwater, is a vampire, but it's a theory that's dismissed by his editor and authorities like Sheriff Butcher and D.A. Payne. Kolchak's girlfriend, Gail Foster, a casino worker, provides insight into the victims' lives as clues mount, like human saliva in wounds and a blood bank robbery. Kolchak's investigation clashes with official cover-ups. Facing police resistance, he tracks Skorzeny to his lair, staking him in a climactic confrontation as sunlight weakens the vampire. Authorities suppress the story, threatening Kolchak with murder charges and forcing him to leave Las Vegas, and leaving him to narrate his suppressed account into a tape recorder, warning of hidden truths. The Nightstalker was a massive success, earning a 33.2 Nielsen rating and 54% audience share, making it the highest rated TV movie at the time, with an estimated 50 to 60 million viewers. It won a 1973 Edgar Award for Best TV Feature or Miniseries Teleplay for Richard Matheson. Critics and audiences praised its blend of noir, horror, and dark humor, with McGavin's Kolchak described as a lovable crank and Atwater's vampire as bone-chilling. Its success spawned the sequel, The Night Strangler, in 1973, and the cult series Kolchak the Night Stalker in 1974 to 1975, which cemented its legacy as a groundbreaking horror TV movie. Once again, link to it is in the description below.
Presenting the world premiere of an original motion picture produced especially for ABC. ABC presents Tuesday Movie of the Week. Tonight on Tuesday Movie of the Week.
Two football stars, rivals, best friends.
You and me, starting backfield, what do you say?
Brian Piccolo has cancer.
I'm not going to let it stop me.
I love you, Brian.
The story of Gail Sayers and Brian Piccolo. How they lived, how one died. Brian's song.
We have finally made it to number 1, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to talk about this movie. Brian's Song is a made-for-TV movie that premiered on ABC on November 30th, 1971. It starred James Caan and Billy D. Williams as Chicago Bears football players Brian Piccolo and Gail Sayers, and it's based on Sayers' memoir, I Am Third. The movie focuses on the friendship between Piccolo and Sayers and is set in the mid-60s. It follows Piccolo, a white, brash fullback from Wake Forest, and Sayers, a black, reserved halfback from the University of Kansas, as they compete for roster spots during the Bears' 1965 training camp. Initially rivals, Piccolo and Sayers bond over shared challenges as rookies, becoming the first interracial roommates in the NFL. Their friendship deepens through personal milestones like Sayers' knee injury and recovery, and Piccolo's marriage to Joy, played by Shelley Fabre, and the birth of their daughters, as well as mutual support. In 1969, Piccolo was diagnosed with embryonal cell carcinoma after struggling on the field. Sayers stands by him as Piccolo undergoes surgery and chemotherapy, but the cancer spreads. The film culminates in Piccolo's death in July of 1970 at the age of 26, with Sayers delivering a moving speech at a team banquet honoring Piccolo's courage. The story emphasizes friendship, racial harmony, and resilience, while avoiding sentimentality through authentic dialogue and understated emotion. You want to make a grown man cry? Well, all you gotta do is put Brian's Song on the TV, link in the description by the way, Starring alongside Kahn, Sayers, and Fabre is Jack Warden as Coach George Hallis and Judy Pace as Gail's wife Linda Sayers. Adding authenticity to the narrative were real players like Dick Butkus playing themselves. Brian's Song was a ratings triumph, drawing an estimated 30 to 40 million viewers, one of the strongest performances for ABC's Movie of the Week in the 1970s. Its emotional resonance made it a cultural touchstone, with viewers across generations recalling its impact. Reviews praise its ability to evoke tears without manipulation, often citing the locker room scene where Sayers tells the team of Piccolo's cancer, as well as Sayers' banquet speech. This one is a timeless tearjerker, and fans appreciated the authentic chemistry between Kahn and Williams. The only negative I really can point out is the short 73-minute runtime, which can make the movie feel a little rushed, and the fact that minor characters like Joy and Linda are underdeveloped, but I think this was due to the small budget. I should also point out that even though James Caan was phenomenal in the role of Brian Piccolo, I can't help but think that they missed a massive opportunity in casting Burt Reynolds in the role. I mean, seriously, look at the real Brian Piccolo and then look at Burt Reynolds and James Caan. Still, the film's appeal crossed demographics while resonating with sports fans, families, and those moved by its interracial friendship narrative, especially poignant during the early 1970s racial tensions. Brian's Song won 5 Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Single Program and Outstanding Writing, with nominations for both Caan and Williams. In 1971, the New York Times called it a small masterpiece for balancing sentiment with restraint, praising director Buzz Kulick's pacing and the score by Michael Legrand. Oh man, that score still brings tears to my eyes. Brian's Song really is a gold standard in the genre. It had a profound impact, becoming a benchmark for sports dramas and made-for-TV movies. It was the most watched movie on US television during 1971, and the most watched made-for-TV movie ever up to that point, with a Nielsen rating of 32.9 and an audience share of 48%. Until it was surpassed the next year with a Nightstalker. Its depiction of an interracial friendship between Piccolo and Sayers was groundbreaking in 1971, airing amid civil rights struggles, offering a subtle but powerful message of unity. The film inspired countless viewers, with schools and sports teams using it to teach teamwork and empathy. Yes, it did popularize the disease of the week TV movie genre, but it stood out for its focus on friendship over tragedy. Oh, and I have to point this out because I noticed this when I was rewatching the movie in preparation for this video. When Brian goes to Gail's house to help him rehab after his knee injury, I realized that Gail's house was actually the Bewitched house that used to sit on the Warner Brothers ranch in Los Angeles. I thought this was interesting since Bewitched was still on the air at the time. And it's also sad because the ranch in that house is now gone. But anyways, I had to tell someone of my revelation about the house when rewatching Brian's Song decades later. Okay, the film's legacy includes a 2001 remake, which honestly you can skip, but its true legacy lies in its influence on later sports films like Rudy. The movie's iconic lines like Sayers' Brian's Song speech are still quoted, and the real Gail Sayers involvement definitely ensured its authenticity. Annual rebroadcasts and NFL tributes to Piccolo, like Bears jersey patches, keep this movie's memory alive more than 50 years later. The film also launched Williams' career and showcased Caan's versatility, cementing its status as a cultural milestone that still resonates for its emotional honesty and social relevance. And of course, once again, I think I already said it, but I'll say it again. If you want to watch it, link in the description below. And that's my list for the top 10 TV movies of the 1970s. Please let me know what you think about my picks in the comments below. And be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you know when my next video drops and when I go live. That's all I've got for now. Okay, bye!